All right, Myers, we're about halfway through the college football season. There's been a lot of surprises, a lot of teams coming out of nowhere to make a big impact. But I think one of the teams that's really jumped out of the woodwork as a big time contender is none other than the James Madison Dukes, the JMU Dukes, Myers, fresh off of leaving the FCS, joining big boy FBS football. This team was an FCS dynasty. I think they last won the national championship in FCS in 2016, but they were big time contenders in that division of football for a very long time. They joined the Sun Belt and they're already big time contenders. They're making a huge impact. 5-1 among the league leaders in that conference. And I know you have some thoughts on that. I got some details I want to talk about too. But before I go into that, JMU fans, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Give us a guy who you think has been your team MVP so far about halfway through the season. Quarterback, running back, defense, heck, maybe even give the coach a shout out. Let us know who you think has been the most valuable player who's had the biggest impact on this football team so far. But Miles, give me your thoughts on the JMU Dukes and just the impact they have and their chances the rest of the way.
Nick, the Dukes have been so impressive so far this season. Obviously, you've stated they're on a historic clip, being ranked in the top 25. Great. Going 5-0 to start the season, to get past that 4-win average, huge. Tough loss to a Georgia Southern team that's very tough team. And I'll go on to say, Nick, a lot of these FCS teams in the last 5 years that made the jump to FBS, they are teams you don't want to mess with. You don't want to cross your path. Just ask Texas A&M when they had to play App State. Not fun. App State, really good team, made the jump from FCS. Georgia Southern, really good team now, made the jump from FCS. And same with Coastal and now JMU. These FCS schools are really putting on quite a show once they make the move to the Sun Belt. And the Sun Belt's becoming kind of a tough little conference to be in. But, looking at the rest of the schedule, I think JMU has a real chance to finish this season out unbeaten through the last 5 games or so to make themselves, be a nice 10-1, something like that. Yeah. But we look, they have Marshall they're at Marshall. No, at home versus Marshall. So that's a winnable game. Sure. They're at Louisville. That's a winnable game. I think they can beat Louisville.
I agree.
They're at Old Dominion, which Old Dominion has been a really tough team to play this year. They've gave teams a lot of run for the money, but I think they have the talent at JMU to beat Old Dominion. They get Georgia State at home, which is going to be a really, really good game for them. Obviously, Georgia State's got a lot of good athletes on the team. Robert Lewis has been really good for Georgia State, but they haven't been able to string together a complete performance, offense, defense, and special teams. So I think JMU gets the win there. And then the real tester is versus Coastal. They get Coastal at home. It's going to be a really big game. And I think having them at home gives JMU just that little bit of edge to push past a team like Coastal, who's going to be their toughest opponent of the season so far, I think. But nonetheless, Nick, JMU has a really good chance to finish out these last 5 games undefeated and go the season 10-1. I think that's incredible for them.
Yeah, and you alluded to the fact that what they've been doing is historic, right? And I think you brought up some of the stats. And the fact of the matter remains, since 2012, 12 teams have made the leap to the FBS. Not one of those 12 teams cracked the AP top 25 their first year in FBS. James Madison obviously did. When they started 5-0, they were ranked, I think, number 25. They obviously fell off the cliff, losing to Georgia Southern, so they're no longer ranked. But still, historic first team their first year in FBS to become ranked. Not only that, I think you brought this up specifically, the average win total for a team for their first year in the FBS is about 4 wins. James Madison is obviously beyond that. They've got 5, and they're on pace to get at least 10 wins. And that tells you the quality of this program. And I want to bring up App State specifically because you got App State beating Texas A&M, obviously. Huge game and all of that for the Sun Belt. But how about the JMU Dukes going to Boone, North Carolina and beating App State earlier this year? I mean, App State's one of the premier contenders in the Sun Belt. They're a great football team, well-run program, great environment up in Boone. And James Madison went there and beat them. That tells you the quality of program at an FBS level James Madison is already at. I think they roll through the rest of the schedule heading to that massive showdown against Coastal Carolina. That's one heck of a game. I think anyone who can see that football game, that's going to be one of the underrated football games of the season. It's going to tell us a lot about this James Madison program, and I think they got a strong shot to beat Coastal and, like you said, finish the year 10-1.
So, Nick, we're already calling this the next Tennessee-Alabama, CCU versus JMU. It's going to be the Alabama-Tennessee of the Sun Belt. I think that's really interesting. And I think that JMU is a very interesting team. I am, for one, excited to keep my eye on them. And, Nick, it's not so bad that they lost one game and they're kicked out of the top 25 at this point in the season. I think they get back there maybe towards the end of the season, but they're not even allowed to go to the college football playoff. I think that's really what they wanted. They wanted the fans to temper their expectations. They lose an easy game and finish the season out. They're like, we didn't even want you to think that we're going to make it there because we're not able to make it there. Maybe in the next few seasons, they keep up this historic clip and they get into the college football playoff. That would be pretty crazy to see a Sun Belt team there. But
it's gonna happen eventually. It's gonna happen, and whether it's Coastal, App State, or maybe even JMU. I mean, it could theoretically happen, especially if they expand it.
I'm for it. I think it's very interesting. 12-team playoff. We're calling it now. First 12-team playoff. Whenever they decide to make that switch, JMU's making it. So I'm excited to watch it. We'll check back in with you when that